Salutations! Welcome to another episode of RWBY Review. This time around, we're going to be looking at the second trailer for RWBY, the White trailer. I'll admit this one's my personal favorite, because Weiss's weapon and semblance are my favorite, and out of the four theme songs for the four main girls, by far and away is Mirror Mirror my favorite. I think Casey absolutely played to her strengths here, and the track dazzles and shines with her vocal talentry and excellence. Let's get into it, shall we? This is the first of the trailers that starts with a hand-picked Monty quote. I assume he came up with these himself since he didn't attribute it to anyone. I like the takeaway here too. Everyone has their own levels of sadness, no two are quite the same, and just because someone may be going through something objectively worse than you does not mean there isn't a place for or validity to your own troubles and sorrows. It's not a contest, no one is going to win. It's all unique and therefore irreplaceable. I always did hate whenever someone tries to outdo your own pain and suffering with theirs, like it's the Depression Olympics or something. Sure, you lost your dad, but I never knew my parents, so suck it up. No. If I want to mourn the death of someone close to me, you're not going to invalidate it with your own experiences. Your experiences are not universal, nor are mine, and that's okay. So I always found this to be an odd choice, that announcer's words, for lack of a better term. Is he saying something and it's just unintelligible to us as the audience? Is it a different language? Is this their version of German? Is Weiss their version of a German? We know that Weiss Schnee is named because it means white snow in German, aka her allusion being to Snow White. Is there a remnant equivalent of German? On that tangent, what about languages? Does everyone just speak one universal language? They're from different continents, aren't they? Weiss is from Atlas, which is in Solitas. Ruby and Yang are from Patch, which is near Sanus. Blake is presumably from Menagerie. Is there really only one language in this entire world? It's not like they have any difficulties communicating with each other, so I'm starting to think that maybe they only do have one language, which is very weird. Also, note that this is the first named character we have. Last trailer didn't tell us about Ruby or name her in any capacity, so Weiss is canonically the first named character of the series. Back to the trailer at hand, Weiss is very pretty. She has a unique design to her that makes her stand out despite her very generic anime girl face. The features are standard anime in nature, but there's enough little twists that make her look special. The scar on her left eye, for one, is a great distinguishing character trait. Her hair being tied off to one side is another. She's very clearly got a white dominant color palette going on, so the brilliant usage of red inside her high collar and inner boots really makes her outfit pop. I genuinely think that this is Weiss's peak character design, and thinking on it now, not to be a traditionalist, but I think the four girls' original designs remain their best ones. A future outfit change, presumably for the as of yet unannounced vacuole arc in volumes 10 to 12, might upset the rankings, but for now, I truly do adore this outfit and the rest of Team RWBY's debut designs. I've always really liked this crowd shot. You can see every so often a sparkle, really a flash, that signifies a picture being taken. This isn't a meager crowd either. Right away, you can tell that Weiss is someone important within the world of Remnant, which makes her an interesting juxtaposition to RWBY, who appears to be simultaneously just an insanely skilled person and your everyday average girl. The soft, contemplative melody of Mirror Mirror just hits right for me every single time. The mouth animations aren't the best, but I'm a very forgiving person, so I don't actually mind at all. Just thought I'd point it out. I usually tend to like these weird little quirks and consider them part and parcel of the package, and thus I genuinely really like them, as I consider them just another aspect that makes the thing I love fun or cute or awesome or what have you. She's invoking the mirror and singing about who is the loneliest of all, so a clear allusion to the Snow White fairy tale, specifically the evil queen asking the oft misquoted, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" Turns out the actual quote was, "Magic mirror on the wall, who's the fairest one of all?" The answer was Snow White, if you didn't know. I think Weiss invoking the imagery of the magic mirror and asking a question in song form, but this time of who's the loneliest instead of the fairest, is a very nice twist and adaptation of the magic mirror trope and tells us immediately she's lonely. This makes her super fascinating in my books already. Why is she lonely? Surely she has all this attention from everyone. That doesn't inherently mean she can't be lonely. You can be surrounded by friends and loved ones and still be lonely after all. But why specifically was she lonely? What was the cause? Was she depressed? Homesick? Why would this apparently popular and famous person be lonely? I have always loved this transition, especially given that it evokes the imagery of a mirror. She's reflected on the ground, and the camera cleverly moves to focus on that Weiss, signaling a transference from what is presumably reality to a sort of liminal space or memory. The trailer was never clear about that, whether this was some sort of imaginary situation or space between realms, or some sort of allegory that Weiss fighting the Armageddon Knight was supposed to represent, or if this was something she actually fought and this is just a past memory she's remembering while giving this performance. It's only in the series proper do we get a confirmation that this did indeed happen, and that confirmation comes in Volume 3, so over 3 years after the trailer debuted. You can understand why one would be confused. Weiss's white design and red accents against a monochromatic white and gray backdrop on the stage just absolutely visually stuns in that she stands out and is far and away the focus of the scene. They really used to know how to incorporate color theory and maximize its usage, because this was just beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. In later volumes actually toned down color, despite it being a color concept of the show, both in and out of universe. They use this to even greater effect within the liminal space / memory, as not only is everything black and white, with Armageddon being gray and Weiss being the only colorful thing in the scene, but Weiss is colorful against such a plain backdrop. It makes it far easier to keep up with her movements and actions, despite this being a fast-paced fight scene. Genius decision for everyone involved. Give yourselves a round of applause and clap on the back, pat on the head, whatever works for you. Look at the size of that giant suit of armor compared to this little girl. Whereas the red trailer utilized the imagery of savage beasts en masse against one lonesome little girl, this one focuses on a giant suit of armor that dwarfs his female opponent. This immediately and cleverly pins our protagonists as the underdogs in the situation, and has us rooting for the victory from the very start. The fight starting off in tune with the music, the action in sync with the song, Monty really had a way of synergizing the combat, and it shows the glorious effect in this trailer and all the others, particularly the yellow trailer. If there's one thing I love, it's speedsters. I know that Weiss usually doesn't fall under this qualification, especially when compared to RWBY, but just observe her fighting here and tell me she's not literally a speedster. Go on, tell me. You'd be lying through your fucking teeth. The way Weiss fights highlights her elegance. She's using a rapier, an uncommon weapon in combat, and is evocative of the fencing fighting style, and utilizes her superior speed and training to land precision strikes. This is her primary combat style until like Volume 4, when she became more focused on summoning, which I think it was a massive mistake. Like, she had her whole summoning arc in Volume 3, and it was excellent, but then it became her only sort of combat style, and like she never did anything else besides that. It's like the writers forgot that she used to be able to do something other than summoning, because that's all she relies on now. I miss when she used Mertenaster as her primary weapon, because a sword with a revolver built into its handle is the absolute fucking definition of cool for me. Pay attention to this lyric here. Harkening back to the "who's the loneliest of all" motif, this raises more questions and causes Weiss to become a more interesting character by the second. What's there inside of her that she fears? Is it her emotions? Her anger? Her true self? Is it how her heart feels? Does she feel dead inside? If so, why? What happened to her to fear something within her? Fear is usually born of the unknown, of something external. What could it possibly be that Weiss is terrified of within her? Her truth? Her inability to feel? Does Weiss not know who she is? I've always really loved this hand-waving animation to turn Mertenaster's revolver handle, at least I think that's what she's doing, and summon her semblance to make her even more of a speedster and up her evasive capabilities. God, I love her utilizing Mertenaster here to fence and fight off the Armageddon, taking the offensive and forcing a larger opponent back, and effectively using her glyphs as platforms to land on and launch off of in midair. That's so fucking handy, I really love it. I'm a sucker for this move. When A swings at B, but B dodges it with a jump only for A to follow up with another hit while B can't dodge because they're in midair. It's just such a smooth transition from the Armageddon making a smooth backhanded slash and following up with its momentum to deliver that subsequent punch. Nice use of action and conserving energy. I know Monty was a big believer in not wasting any action with unnecessary flourish, so for him to capitalize on a natural follow-up was very nice to see, especially early on in RWBY's development, as it set the standard that was followed for quite some time. The shot of the moon and Casey's beautiful chilling aria underscoring it, fucking fantastic. The shadows and the light passing over Weiss has always been a really cool visual for me, and are evocative of time dilation we see later in Volume 2 and Never Again, I think, which is a real shame. Time dilation is a fucking shit, and I loved it so much. Like, it was a really excellent power. Please bring it back. How very polite for the Armagigas to simply wait for Weiss to get up and continue their fight. Especially and exceptionally good manners. What a good boy. Here's the confusing part, but it's only confusing if you disregard anything that happens in RWBY after, or try to retroactively make it make sense. Why is Weiss bleeding? Did she not have her aura up? Was her aura broken? This was before the introduction of a visual cue for aura breaking, so it's possible that happened. It's possible she never had it up, but it's also just as possible that aura wasn't conceptualized yet. It's my understanding that aura was invented as a way for Monty to include bombastic action and extend fights beyond what normally would be considered fatal blows. I don't particularly think Weiss being sucker punched by a giant suit of armor qualifies as an insta-kill, but I could be wrong. I think that aura hadn't been thought up yet, even though they did introduce the concept fairly early on in the series. However, this was their second foray into RWBY's world of Remnant, as only the red trailer preceded us. Aura not being thought up of yet makes the most sense to me. Otherwise, we're left with questions like, why is Weiss bleeding after so simple a blow? Was it the punch herself that injured her? Her crash to the ground? The characters are way tougher than that. Speaking of, why is Weiss the only character I can think of right now with a scar? I know Cinder and Blake also have scars, but aren't auras supposed to heal you? At what point does Aura tap out and simply say, sorry man, I can't fix this for you? Was Weiss' scar truly so bad that it simply couldn't be healed? What about Blake's abdomen scar from Adam's stabbing of her in Volume 3? Cinder's facial scars I can understand because of the silver eyes being presented visually as exceptionally powerful, enough to freeze a wyvern solid and put Cinder in a state near death had Salem not intervened. But Weiss' eye scar and Blake's itty bitty hip scar? Those don't seem as believable to me, or should have healed those right on up. The second I saw Weiss enter the pose to her side, with her body to the side and her head facing the Armagigas, rapier revolver pointed at him with determination, I knew that the Armagigas was fucked up and shit was about to get hella real, hella fast. And here we see the revolver part of Merton Astor in close-up action for the first time. The concept of it being worked into the handle and filled with different colors and types of dust, making her weapon a multi-action dust rapier, posits her weapon of choice as my personal favorite of the Forming Girls and probably favorite of the entire series, with Yang's Amber Silica, her dual-range shotgun gauntlets being a close second. Sidebar, why does Yang never use different dust types with Amber Silica? It could be so much cooler if it shot out ice or gravity or lightning dust or something. Maybe next upgrade? I'm surprised Pietro didn't fix that for her. It would be really cool to see. Really hope it comes true before the end of the series, and hopefully really soon. The tides of battle have changed. Whereas Weiss started off in control, combating the Armagigas without doing too much damage to it, now we see her really shine. I'm going to assume that the red shield was hard light dust, just not coalesced into its proper light blue color, as canonized later in the series. Remember, this was the second trailer, and not every rule would have been set in stone at this point. They're still figuring things out. I like when Weiss does her spin thing, but sometimes it feels a bit too extraneous and unnecessary. 2 twirls is fine, but 3 or more and it's just like, get on with it already. Though I suppose I just now am realizing that her twirling might have been her turning the dust chambers in her Merton Astor. It did change from hard light to ice dust, so perhaps that's why she did the twirls. This is one of my favorite shots of the entire trailer. Weiss running at the Armagigas as it swings its sword and manages to successfully jump onto it and land it. It's one of my favorite tropes, the riding or standing on an opponent's sword, though I think I'll have to call out this part here. This makes no sense. How the fuck is she gonna tumble down a sword that's in the middle of being swung? Wouldn't she fly off? Wouldn't she be sent flying? Is that gravity dust her sword is using her to keep her in place? It's not purple, but again, nothing was set in stone at this point, so it could have been green at one time. I don't know, but I suppose what matters is rule of cool, and rule this does, indeed. What was that multicolored thing that exploded? Was it dust, or semblance, or some sort of thing? I don't know what it was. Nice job on disarming him, Weiss. The way that giant sword of his slammed into the ground in the background behind her was very satisfying. Why am I just now realizing that Weiss laid that giant cliff on the ground to trap him? You'd think after seeing this trailer 10 times that I would have put 2 and 2 together. It's definitely way too suspiciously big for herself, as she only ever really makes glyphs for herself that are slightly larger or just enough to accommodate her. This one is far larger, and that really should have been my hint and dead giveaway that she planned on luring and trapping him there with a glyph that turns deliciously rainbow and colorful. If you haven't pieced it together by now, I'm a slut for color and rainbows are my favorite things because of it. Why do you think I love RWBY so much? This show that's a core constant's color, come on. That and fairy tales are this show's my kryptonite. My fucking crock. I can't get enough. This definitely is evocative of mage imagery. Mage imagery? That sounds so weird to say. where Weiss is using her sword the way a witch or a wizard or warlock would use their wand. It makes sense since Weiss fits the mage archetype in JRPGs or Japanese role-playing games, and I always really enjoyed the way the beams of light shoot out of the stars and hold the Armagigas in place. I'm actually surprised they aren't really exactly the Schnee family insignia, but that's a minor niggle. That's not really important, I think. Weiss launching herself up with her semblance and gaining altitude and ascending as the performance of the music climaxes, poetic cinema. You can't get quality content like this anywhere else. Just like how beautiful and thematically poignant the framing of Weiss against the now shattered, yet still very different from the final product, moon is. It's clear they got the idea to shatter the moon in between the two trailers, and only refined it further from there to great effect in the future volumes. I always did adore the shot of Weiss in front of the moon like RWBY was in the Red trailer, and it's one of my favorite shots from the trailers, whereas in the RWBY's trailer it was to signal the beginning of the fight, and Weiss's is to signalize the end of the fight. Signalize? That's not a word. Whatever. Weiss using her semblance here at an odd angle to launch herself forward was very nice too, as was the glowing insignia / etched patterns on her Mertenaster sword. I don't think we really see much more of that, if ever again. And just like that, Weiss has defeated the Armagigas. Did you know that it was the Geisgrim that possessed the suit of armor? I didn't know until I bought and read World of RWBY, the official companion book. That's not an ad, by the way. This is just like, I really enjoyed the book. Just a nifty little tidbit, if you didn't know. I haven't read most of the manga yet. I don't know why I keep defaulting to say manga, but whatever. I haven't read most of the manga yet, so I don't know if it was brought up there, but I do believe there are scenes of Weiss against the Armagigas because I think that's where I left off years ago. So it might have been common knowledge, or at least mentioned before. So Weiss considers herself the loneliest of all. Obviously hyperbole, but again, it harkens back to the question, why is Weiss lonely? This shot of Weiss getting up as the Armagigas crashes down, peak fucking cinema. Something that I don't get and has bothered me to this day. Why is Weiss's scar asymmetrical? It looks like it's a slash, even though we see it's either the result of a punch or her falling on the ground. It's not a general bruise. It's not a general bruise like it would be from the ground, so I'll deduce that it's the sharp groove of the Armagigas' hand that cut into her. But why would the slash be so uneven? Why is the slash on the top eyelid not mirrored by the one on the bottom? Why is the one on the bottom lid a handful of millimeters away from the sibling on the top lid? It doesn't make sense to me. It's bothered me for over half a decade. I need answers, RWBY. Please put me out of my fucking misery. Is it because of the way her hair is modeled? You wouldn't be able to see the top scar of her. You wouldn't be able to see the top part of the scar if it matched the bottom lid? Then why not move the fucking scar of the bottom lid to match the top lid? It just really fucking annoys me for some reason. I hate it. Conceptually, I love the scar. Like, the scar, I like that she has one. Like, it makes her distinct, like I mentioned. But what I like conceptually and in theory, I just don't like how it was executed. Like, I just don't like how uneven it was. The Armagigas evaporating into white dust that's mirrored in the present when it transitions to snow. Falling all about Weiss was a very nice transition, and I liked it very much. Weiss was so immersed in her memory while singing, it feels like she forgot she was in front of all those people. Her gazing at the moon, as well as the clearly shattered depiction, keeps the moon imagery coming to the forefront of her mind and signals it as important. I don't know if I'll say thematically, if that's the proper word, but we'll go for it for lack of a better word. I trust you to get what I was going for. Clearly elegant and well-mannered. Well done, Weiss. Shua 4 down, halfway there. RWBY and Weiss's character concept arts have been revealed, and now there's just two left, Blake and Yang, or the black and yellow to RWBY and Weiss's red and white respectively. Now we've met half of Team RWBY, and we'll meet the other half soon. Stay tuned for the next couple of episodes of RWBY Review, that's RWBYREVW, hopefully soon. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like what you heard, or flip me the bird if that's what you prefer. I'll see you soon, Z's. Until then, take care, friend.